I learned something years ago that dramatically changed how I understood my reactions to the world. But it wasn't until I applied it to politics, which I do to everything because everything is politics, that my mind was truly and deeply broken wide open. Now, what I learned is how the brain is wired. The data that we get from our senses, what we see, hear, feel, taste, and smell, that data is wired directly to the fight or flight part of our brain. And it has to pass through that part of our brain to get to where we can actually process it rationally. This is for a very specific evolutionary reason. Because when you see or hear something that might actually be a threat, your decision to either run or fight could be a matter of life or death. This is why when you're thinking about a spider and then something brushes against your leg, you launch yourself across the room before you realize, oh, it was just my pants. Just like with the example with the spider, sometimes our senses betray us, and it's how we manage that betrayal that determines if you're a Republican or Democrat. It's right there in the word conservative. The default position of a conservative is to resist change. New food, new culture, new people, new religions, new skin color. And it's our senses that detect change. You hear a lisp or a foreign language, or what you think is a man's voice coming out of a woman's body. Your senses are capturing that information and sending it to your primitive brain first. And especially if your amygdala is larger than average, congratulations, Republican men, yours is bigger. Based on the neural pathways you've activated the most, your brain chooses before you have a chance to even consider it if what you are experiencing is a threat. Now, millions of us do go through that same process, but those of us who know how to ignore that emotional, irrational reaction, we do so either because of education or experience, because we've seen time and time again when we leave our hometown and we leave our high school friends behind, even for a little bit. Fear of change is normal, and once the rational brain catches up, the fear dissolves. But tens of millions of Republicans don't have that education or experience running interference on their behalf. Making it far worse, right-wing leaders and right-wing news outlets push on this fear because they know that when they keep you in that place of fear, you are far easier to control. Brain basically shuts down to new information. In other words, Republican leaders are manipulating a good faith biological mechanism in your brain to keep you afraid, because when they keep you afraid, they keep you dumb. The longer you stay dumb, the easier you are to manipulate. And even worse, the longer you stay on that hamster wheel, the harder it is for you to ever find your way out of the cage. But it's still possible if you take the time to recognize when you are being manipulated. I promise you that is time well worth taking, because a life spent reactive and afraid is not a life worth living.